Good evening, sir. Happy birthday.
He must be hard of hearing or something. Try again.
Sprechen Sie Deutsch? Do you speak English?
Our sincerest congratulations, sir. You wishing Mr. Tompkins a happy birthday?
Yeah, I did about 100 times, but I don't think the guy can hear us or something. He's deaf.
How about a nice group photo, huh? Give me your camera. All right, everybody get in there. What do I do? Push the red button?
Just the red button, Dad.
How do you focus?
You don't focus.
You don't have to focus?
You don't have to focus. You push the red button.
Chet, I don't like them youngsters climbing around Mr. Tompkins like that. He ain't no jungle, Jim.
All right, girls, why don't you kiss Mr. Tompkins on the cheek?
Yeah, nice kiss on the cheek.
No,
Come on, it's cute. What old man wouldn't like a little girl kissing him on that cheek?
a dead one.
Huh?
Bill died in the car on the way over here.
Jesus, Dad!
Go wash. In the bathroom. How could you do that?
He didn't do that. He did it.
You're disgusting. Hit.
This is Tim.
This is Jonathan.
In our fourth episode, we're heading into the wilderness with the classic comedy, The Great Outdoors. This 1988 film is a hilarious exploration of family, nature, and the unexpected adventures that comes with a vacation in the great outdoors. We're excited to be joined once again by special guest Ivy Tholen, who will help us dive into the comedic genius of John Candy and Dan Aykroyd, the memorable moments, and the heartwarming family dynamics that make The Great Outdoors a beloved summer movie classic. But first, she announced something this week that we need to discuss.
I randomly, I had not planned it until I woke up that day. I randomly announced that I'm releasing another book this year. It is called Mother Dear.
And I am pumped.
I'm so excited. I don't want to say too much, but since we're talking movies, I think the best way to describe it is Serial Mom meets Father of the Bride.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
I
like me some Serial Mom.
Excited.
Yeah. It's a lot of, I've been having a lot of fun, and I hope other people also have fun when they read it, if they choose to read it eventually. So I know a date. I'm not saying what the date is, but it's soon.
Awesome. If you haven't picked up one of Ivy's books yet, I highly recommend them. I have a ton of fun reading them. She's, at this point, you have been on the show about a third.
A bunch of them.
You're like the third most regular person on this show. So we love having you around. Love the books. I'm super excited for the next one.
Well, thank you very much. And I love being here. You guys are so fun to talk to. It's just great.
We're glad you think
and
so.
And you pick good movies. These are some fun movies. Who's talking about Camp Nowhere?
I have not seen anybody. And
that's why we got to bring it out to the forefront. That's why we got to expose people to it. And hey, look at this. Yes. Look what you missed out on. Catch up, buddy. Come on.
That's what I want to do. Everybody went to the movies over the weekend, and everybody is talking. So at the time this comes out, and this is our most timely recording lately, everybody went to see Longlegs last weekend. Everybody's talking about Longlegs. We were talking about Camp Nowhere. We did see Longlegs. But it's just an echo chamber of everybody praising that movie. And
I know, Tim, at least you and people should go see Longlegs. It's
people
good.
Should go see Longlegs.
Yes.
When I saw the trailer, it looked really, really intense. And I'm like, that's going to be something awesome to see, probably.
So I want to give you a warning. If you go to see Longlegs based on this brief discussion, it's not scary. Don't listen to the marketing.
Oh.
Okay? I did not find it scary at all, but I did greatly enjoy the film. So
I also did not find it scary in the least bit. Yeah, but that's fine because it is a very good movie.
Yes.
I will see anything else he directs. I will.
So compared, my problem was somebody had compared it to Hereditary as far as scare level, intensity level. And so I was ramped because Hereditary is not a movie I enjoy watching because of the way it makes me feel. This one was nowhere close to that. So if you were worried about it being too scary, get out there. Approach it more as what I'm hearing very often echoed online, a satanic Silence of the Lambs. And that's what it is. It is about as scary as Silence of the Lambs. So go see it. It's a great film.
But there is a little hint of goofiness in it, though. I think that cannot be like, I think knowing if there's a little bit of weirdness to it is important, because that's what makes it interesting.
Like, I was not expecting some of the humor in it.
I wasn't either. It is very funny. I texted someone else that I knew who had seen it, and I was like, was this a comedy? And there are some funny bits.
So the trailer doesn't make it seem like any of that at all.
No, and I haven't seen the trailer, but I've heard it's nothing like that.
It is dark. It is dark humor. But Micah Monroe's character, this FBI agent, is very, how would you explain her? She's neurodivergent for sure.
Yes.
Yes. And so a lot of it comes from like, very awkward interactions where you can tell she is not having a good time, but she is trying to rise to social norms. And it's funny. It worked for me. I enjoyed it. And Micah Monroe delivered amazingly. She's fantastic. But
she is fantastic.
There is our sidetrack on Longlegs. Join us as we break down the great outdoors themes, standout performances, and the lasting impact on family comedies, a genre that I think is pretty much dead at the moment. Don't forget to send us your thoughts and reviews. The Linktree has the scorecard where you can send us exactly what you think and get posted in social media or read in an episode if we get it before recording. So you might just see them in the future. Pack your bags, grab your bug spray, and get ready for some laughs and adventures with the great outdoors. Okay, so both of you, this was not a first watch for anybody.
No,
Jonathan, what were you waving around earlier?
Oh, you mean this fantastic thing right here?
Yeah.
Yes, this is a movie that I deem worth owning. So it must be in my collection. It must be. It's a great film from my childhood that I've always thought very well of, and got a great comedy duo who kick ass, big names, very well seasoned actors by that point.
The movie follows the story of Chet Ripley, played by the legendary John Candy, who takes his family on a much anticipated vacation to a lakeside resort. Their peaceful getaway is soon disrupted by the arrival of Chet's obnoxious brother-in-law, Roman Craig, played by Dan Aykroyd, along with his family. What ensues is a series of comedic misadventures, from bear encounters to disastrous boat rides, as the two families try to coexist and enjoy their summer retreat. Cast, as mentioned, Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, and Annette Bening as Dan Aykroyd's wife. It's directed by Howard Deutsch and written by the legendary John Hughes. So I have 5 little trivia facts about this movie. So I want to see if you knew them. This was the last of 3 films that Hughes wrote and Deutsch directed. The previous 2 were Pretty in Pink and Some Kind of Wonderful. So that's number 1. Number 2, the name of the vacation spot where the family stay is Lake Potawatomi. Maybe.
I don't think I would have done as well trying to say it.
Place. It's a fictional place in Wisconsin. The movie was filmed in California's Bass Lake. Number 3, the set where the family cabin was built was also used for another movie that starred Aykroyd and Candy. It was Bob's Country Bunker in The Blues Brothers.
Oh, wow. Huh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
This one is not so positive. Yeah, okay. So all new information. Siskel and Ebert reviewed the movie on their show, but gave it poor reviews and thought it stunk all the way through. That's not the positive note, but they did not enjoy the movie. So this is my favorite one. In the movie, Chet tackles the old 96er at Paul Bunyan's cupboard. There is actually a restaurant in northern Wisconsin called Paul Bunyan's Cook Shanty, but the giant steak is not on the menu.
Boo.
You know, that's actually my favorite one because it's food related. So
Fair
diving in, Jonathan, you're going to kick us off with what you thought of the story.
Yay!
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, one of my favorite films growing up in the 80s. It's a Midwesterner film, and I always thought that was pretty cool. The idea of, people from Chicago going out to the woods, trying to do family time thing. The whole idea that, this family who's going out to this place out of, this, what was it? They'd already been there before, John Candy and his wife for their anniversary. Their honeymoon. That's right. What's what I meant to say? Yeah, their honeymoon, and like having that sense of nostalgia to come back to this place where they had such great memories, had a wonderful time, a landmark in their life, and then want to share that place with their kids, and enjoy some family togetherness is very awesome. And then having this brother-in-law and his family come out of nowhere, intrude upon your vacation with no warning, then like claiming to, this, no brother-in-law of mine who's staying at my cabin is going to eat like such and such, like being a D-bag and taking over like the D-bag that Roman is as the brother-in-law. Very different family, getting to see like these very different family dynamics. There's more like blue-collar, middle-class people with the Ripleys, and then the Craigs, Dan Aykroyd being like this hotshot, trader, investment guy from Chicago, thinks he's big shit, and, eventually finding out that things aren't what they seem, and, seeing how he's trying to learn from Chet and how he interacts with his kids and everything, with them trying to bond, and like the weird disconnect that Roman's character has with his kids, and just trying to have a good time and trying to be together, and then you've got the oldest son, Ben, who's on his weird little young teenage wannabe romance, have a girlfriend for a week kind of thing. Totally reminded me of just like how weird it was with short-term relationships when I was a young teen and like sitting at the back of the church bus with my girlfriend so we could make out and be all goofy and shit. Just, dumb shit that just makes me, I really connect with those feelings. And it was always a cool film. And just all the hijinks that ensues in between throughout the story is incredible. There's always a lot of action and then some somber moments, some action, some comedy, some tension. It's a lot of back and forth. And then, them all finally coming together, being like more of a whole family unit at the end of the film is pretty awesome. So I'm going to hit this. This is such a fantastic film to me that I almost gave it a 5, but it's not perfect. Nothing's ever perfect. It's really hard to be perfect. So I'm hitting it a 4. I'm going to give it almost, hell, I'd say maybe even a 5, 4.5, just,
okay.
Just because. I never do halves. Really, but.
All right.
Yeah.
I hate to do this and come in now. I agree with everything you said. There's something about the story that is off for me. I feel like they couldn't, and I wish they had. I think the main story here that I love is between the two brother-in-laws. It's the main story here. I, as an adult, don't care for the teenage romance distraction because watching it now, that has no impact on the greater storyline whatsoever. It is.
I was going to say that later, but you beat me to it.
Yeah, it is there for 12-year-old me watching the movie and wanting that part of vacation to be my life, But as an adult, I realize this has nothing to do with their family vacation. And in fact, John Candy says this is about him and his son bonding and getting to know each other, but we almost rarely see the two of them bonding and getting to know each other. So between the shoehorned romance and the really shoehorned raccoons, it feels like they're trying to pad time to make this movie meet 90 minutes. So I almost wish we had more. They had gone more the adult storylines and focused on the two brothers, because I do think that is a really good story. And I also, like I said, the family comedy genre seems to be dead at the moment. So I appreciate, like, at the same time I'm critical of this movie, I also really appreciate this movie for what it is. I also just feel like I'm at an impasse on the story. I feel like there's stuff added that's not necessary, and there's stuff that I wish was expanded upon. So I gave it a 3. I think it's a good story. I think the really good part of it is how real the vacation is. It feels that's also a detriment to it, that because I don't think the movie's that funny, I feel like I'm watching Family Vacation, and that's what is also so comforting about it. So it's this weird movie for me. I'm getting into my final thoughts before we've even started.
Slow down, Tim. Jeez.
Yeah, but the realistic nature of, I've been on many vacations with multiple families, and I always get like this kind of competitive feel to it. Or you spend so much time with the other family that you're sick of each other by day 4 and you can't wait to get away from each other. And this movie does a great job of that. Like, oh, you're going to make hot dogs? No family of mine is eating hot dogs. We're going to get $32 lobster and grill it. Like, it feels real. It might be exaggerated, but that idea of like, hey, there's a burger place down the street, you want to go get it? Oh, we were thinking about a steakhouse. You know, it feels like that competitive nature of vacations I've been on. So I appreciate that side of it. So I did give it a 3, mostly because of the extra stuff that doesn't add anything on rewatch and feels shoehorned into the story. So that's why I gave it a 3.
Okay, right on. Gotta appreciate a little one-upsmanship in there, here and there, you know.
It's too real. It is too real.
Well, this thing is rated PG. And there was a thing in the 80s with comedies. There's a reason movies like this don't exist anymore. Nowadays, whenever you have a family film, you are going to go see Inside Out, where they throw in stuff for the adults. Then it was the exact opposite. They would have these movies with really adult themes and then put stuff that's really appealing to children in there. And then the kids would want to see those things too. And parents would say, oh, it's got a talking plant puppet in it. Let's go see Little Shop of Horrors. And maybe we shouldn't take the 4-year-old to see that. But you don't get a lot of that anymore. There's not a lot of stuff that's geared for adults that they throw kid stuff in, because I guess people were taking their kids to see the John Candy and Dan Aykroyd and other movies. So why not throw a few little things in for the kids and even the teenagers? I think the raccoons are for like little kids and the teenage love story, but also, can John Hughes really like not write a teenage love story into everything? That's like his thing. Like that's why that's
signature.
There. Does it like, am I defending it? No, it's my least favorite part of the movie, but I'm just saying that's what he does. I gave it a 4. Yeah. I don't know. I gave it a 4. I mean, it's not perfect. But I've seen this movie, I can't tell you how many times, and it's always entertaining. I also weirdly forget it exists. And then I'll like see it pop up on, Netflix or something. And then I watch it and I forget everything about it. And it's like rewatching it for the first time every time. I don't know why it doesn't stick with me.
Yeah. It's a unique little movie. My wife and I So what's fun about reviewing this movie now is the last time I watched this was almost exactly a year ago, because so for a brief period of 3 days, we were homeless. When we sold, we were looking at this home that we live in now. We'd done everything to get this home, but it was contingent on our selling our home. And we ended up with a truck full of our stuff, living in a camper for 3 days. And then we had booked a vacation like months in advance to our favorite small town in the hills. And we were able to come in, sign on this house, drop our bags off, and then we had to head to that vacation. And it worked out because after being homeless for like 3 days, we kind of just needed to get away from everything. But this vacation, we had no internet access, and it was just as Airbnb, and they had a drawer of old DVDs for the TV, and that was it. No internet, nothing else. And we would go into town during the day, but then we're sitting there at night, and one night was really bad storms. And we pulled out 2 movies to watch, and it was The Great Outdoors was one of them, and An American Werewolf in London. Yeah. So we pulled those out, and this movie, The Great Outdoors, watching it in that like kind of stressful situation on vacation was just so comforting. So this movie now has a special place in my heart, more than just like watching it growing up, but that moment rained out on vacation after a stressful time in our lives. Buying a house and moving is stressful enough, and then having to be homeless for a couple days in between them was extra stressful. And this movie came at like a nice little moment in that. So holds a special spot in my heart, but it's not a perfect film.
Before we jump into the next category, I want to tell you a little bit about Zencastr. When I was preparing for our 13 Nights of Halloween series, I was really searching for a way to streamline the process. I wanted a professional looking setup to invite our guests to. I wanted quality audio and video recording, and I wanted the easiest way to release the episodes to as broad of an audience as possible. This is how I landed on Zencastr. It is now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Just log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. And speaking of audio quality, have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with the click of a button. So if you're thinking of starting your own podcast or just want to streamline what you are already doing, go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code AVERAGECUSTOMER, and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. That's average customer, one word. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all of my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. So let's dive into the next category.
So on to our character.
All right. So, there's a pretty good cast of characters. It's not too overly involved, not too many people, especially considering like the 2-family dynamic going on there. And then so the people there at the lodge, and John Candy's character is Chet Ripley, man. And like his whole thing with him and his wife, were pretty great to see, like that kind of like downtone, like chill, like really cool, kooky kind of romance that they have as husband and wife, you know. I love seeing that. And then this whole thing with trying to connect with his kids and still trying to find ways to do that. And then all the goofy shit that happens. And then, you know, the fact that his brother-in-law shows up out of nowhere and just causes him all this stress, but is still finally able to come through that at the end after trying to be sincere and helping him, even though Roman lies to him about some shit that was said at his wedding. You know, it still being on, being above that was pretty awesome. And then seeing how much he cared for Roman and his kids when the girls ran off, during the storm, and just how he's protective of everybody while still like battling out with Roman throughout the whole thing, was pretty awesome. And then also Roman himself always like being such a hot shot, and then finding out that their family is pretty much broke because he made some bad deals, and having to own up to it and like telling everybody what's up, and them all coming together, and him like being more of a father to his little girls since he always felt so estranged to them. Admittedly, the little girls, the twins, do seem kind of weird. Mara and Kara, like, yeah, they were some creepy ginger girls.
One of the first shots of the girls, they play the Twilight Zone music while the boys look. At him. It's great.
That was wonderful effect for sure. And then just the spouses and like how they take up with their husbands, and trying to keep things so amicable, but still being kind of like, why are you like this? Why are you like this? Everyone butting heads and then coming together. It's cool. Ben, the older son, his goofy little unnecessary romance through the film. I kind of agree with that. It didn't really have much, but with, like Ivy was saying, you got to appeal to everybody in a family film. So you got to get those teenagers in there with that hook, as it were. His whole little romance thing, even though it's kind of pointless, was still kind of sweet, but inevitably just kind of pointless because like she even said it, you're only here for a week. So, I mean, what the hell, man? Yeah. But she still goes through it and it's like, oh, that's just so kind of weird. But you don't really get much out of Ben, the younger son. It would have been cool to see a little more involvement and stuff with him. He was just there as just in the scenes for the most part, was kind of like doing his reactionary thing. And then the little girls, Mara and Kara, they're just creepy. No real arc to the kids so much as anything. Like most of any kind of arc and growth was mostly with Chet and Roman and how they kind of got over their bullshit and came together. So it's still pretty awesome. I gave that one a 4. 4.
I'm changing my answer.
Oh,
I was harsher on it, but I really only thought Dan Aykroyd was the one who had an arc in this, but you kind of mentioned it, and Chet does as well. It's just not as clear. So when I watch this movie, I see Chet as the every dad. He's the more down-to-earth, middle-class father that most people can relate to. And in that, I always kind of took him as, I don't want to say the hero of the movie, but the example in the movie. So you get all these moments of Roman watching the way Chet interacts with his kids and kind of wishing he had it similar. And then he can't get over himself and stop, self-bloviating for a second to do that. Even when he watches Chet interact with his kids and then he goes to like tuck his girls in at night, just awkward and funny, but it's just so weird and you almost feel bad for this guy, but he's also just a massive turd. But he does have this redemptive arc at the end when he is a massive turd up into the last 5 minutes of the film. Yeah, when you rewatch this, so the end, when you find out that Roman has no money, he lost it all, and he's been basically waiting tables when he goes to work every day. He takes $25,000 from Chet, who's just this nice guy, and they're driving away, and his wife is saying in the car, like, he probably took money out of the kid's college fund to do that for you. It's just so amazing that he could trust you. And it's not until that moment that Roman feels bad and turns around and gives it. So it's a good arc for him. It does take a very long time, but it's a lot of little things added up along the way. Because you hear that and you go back and watching it on rewatch when they're sitting at the bar having drinks, and then it comes time to pay the bill, and Roman gets up and he's like, I'm going to the bathroom. You pay for the drinks, to Chet. So there are these sly moments of making Chet pay for things. And I just want to mention, while we're talking about paying for things, not sliding into an ad read here. So to estimate the cost, to estimate the cost of a similar vacation today, because I was super curious. So lodging, family stays in a cabin, modern prices for cabin rentals at lake destinations vary widely. A mid-range cabin could cost between $200 and $500 per night, most likely $500. This cabin appears to be 3 stories from the exterior, so we're probably looking for a week stay closer to $3,500 just for the lodging. Food, 2 to 3 meals, you could guess about $100 per person per day. Groceries, about $300, $150 to $300 for the week. So for a family of 4, total might be between $1,200 and $2,100 for the week. The movie showcases various activities like water skiing, fishing, and tourist spots. Water sports rentals vary $50 to $150 per hour. Fishing licenses
horses for the trail ride.
Yep. Fishing licenses could cost $50 to $200. Miscellaneous activities and interest fee, calculate $200 to $500 for that. Overall activities might cost $500 to $1,500. The travel, assuming you drive to the location, could be probably closer to $300, depending on distance and fuel prices and what you're driving. Your Tesla won't cost that much for fuel. So miscellaneous other souvenirs, snacks, whatever, $200 to $500. I was very curious watching this movie last night. I wanted to price this out because finances are such a major part of the storyline. So total estimated cost in today's dollars, your grand total would be somewhere between $3,500 for the low end cabin, low end of everything, or $8,000 for a week-long vacation. Based on what we see in this movie, they are pushing closer to an $8,000 family vacation because this is a pretty big cabin. They go, like, that 96-ounce steak was not cheap. So, well, actually it was free, but
Yep.
Actually it was free.
It wouldn't have been cheap.
Yeah. So obviously things are going to vary, but between $3,500 for low end, you're eating in the cabin every night, to $8,000 depending on what you're doing. So,
God, what about that boat he almost screwed up though? Oh my God, the boat at the landing, he ran it up on the concrete. Oh, paying for man. That high octane boat. What was it? Eat My Wake or something, or Suck My Wake or something? I don't know.
It was Suck My Wake.
Suck My Wake. Dude, that's an expensive boat, and to rent that today?
I'm not even sure you could rent that. That looked like a custom job.
I know, right?
But man. So all that in character, because I was curious when I saw that scene of Roman telling him to pay for drinks. Roman and his family weren't expected to be there, so they weren't part of paying for the cabin. They showed up. And so I was just curious, how much is Roman mooching off of this family in this film? And these numbers are kind of based on a 4-person family. So Roman and his family got a pretty sweet deal of not getting much out of there. But then at the end, we have that nice redemptive arc of him feeling guilty, tearing up the check. But Chet was the one that I didn't really think had any growth. And after Jonathan talked, I realized he does. It's small. It's not quite as much as Roman's, but Chet really dislikes Roman, period. And then I feel like after that confession of having nothing and losing it all, Chet sees Roman a little bit more as a human, a little less pompous, even though Roman still mooching off of the family by the end of the film. That's kind of played up for comedy, but Chet sees Roman differently. So I gave credit for that. I gave it a 4. My long-winded take on character. complete with price breakdown.
Glad I could sway you.
So I put Ivy to sleep.
No, I'm reading.
Numbers.
I'm just reading my notes. I think it's pretty simply, the characters are pretty simply put. It's normal people versus rich assholes. It is.
Yeah.
It's just normal people versus rich assholes. And the interesting thing is that I think of John Candy as the star of this movie. That is the main character to me. But this is correct. He doesn't get a huge arc, but Dan Aykroyd does. But Dan Aykroyd seems like he's a secondary character. That's a weird dynamic you don't see very often. And I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe because we meet them first and they're the ones that are paying for the whole thing. I'm not 100% sure, but I don't think of them as equal. I think of John Candy's character as a star of the whole thing.
I think it's because he's supposed to be the role model.
Yeah.
Like he is kind of he's the father figure they want other people to emulate. So they put him front and center because what does he mess up? He's got it good with his family, good with his wife. Yeah. So I think that's why, but you're definitely onto it. Like the secondary character is the one who goes through the journey here.
Yeah. But other than that, the characters in this are real people. They don't seem like, these people, even the little teeny tiny characters that you only see for a minute. And like the guy in what was his shirt? What did his shirt say? Oh no.
I've been to
Duluth. Like you know who that guy is. You've stopped at a roadside somewhere to whatever, and you've seen that person there. Like you know him. Yep. In a horror movie, he'd be the one telling you not to go to the cabin.
Turn around now.
Yeah, he'd be the harbinger. And maybe he is because John Candy doesn't necessarily have the best time. But they're real and they're sweet, and you like being around these characters. I gave it a 4. It's not perfect, but it's good.
You mentioned I also love he serves zero purpose whatsoever, but I love his 30 seconds in the film. The guy who's been struck by lightning 66 times.
67 by the end of the film.
Yes, 67 by the end, which does nothing other than add a little chuckle in the film, but I appreciate it. So the music and sound design then.
Okay, so music and sound design. Nothing really stood out too much for me with this one. There was a lot of songs that I recall hearing growing up in the 80s. Especially that song was at Dance of a Thousand Lakes. Like that was one I remember more forefront than anything else that I heard in the soundtrack. But still some good songs that really helped, highlight the hijinks in certain parts and the fun and togetherness. But the other sounds that you hear, or the sound design is awesome, especially with that boat, the Suck My Wake. Hearing that engine rumble and just gunning it, dude, like it sounds so rad. I thought that was I just really love that part. Otherwise, the rest of it, as far as like sound goes, nothing too crazy for me. It was good. It blended well. So I gave it a 3. Yeah.
Yeah. Very similar. It didn't take me out of the movie. The one thing I did notice was every single time we cut to the teenage romance, it's the same track. And it starts abruptly. That's what I notice about it, is it's diving. We're not easing into the song. It is boom, right into it. And it's weird. It's a weird choice. This is also this music also shifts from Hughes's traditional new wave classics, and it's a mix of standards and crazy novelty stuff. So we mentioned the use of, they put the Twilight Zone in the one scene, which I thought is a nice touch, but there's nothing really stand out. There's not a song that I'm going to look up, but nothing really takes me out of it other than when we cut to the romance, I appreciate it. It has a theme that's played every single time it's on screen. So I appreciate the theme, I just wish it wasn't so abrupt getting to it. But yeah, I give it a 3 as well. I think it's good. There's nothing bad in the soundtrack at all.
I wonder if there's maybe a joke in there, because I didn't notice that. But I wonder if maybe there's a joke in there that we all missed. Maybe it has, because that's a ridiculous romance. He calls her his girlfriend after about 16 hours.
Oh God!
Like maybe we just all like. I don't think that maybe that wasn't supposed to be serious. Maybe the music repeats as a joke.
As a teenager, it was my favorite part of the movie. I wanted every vacation to go. I wanted every vacation to go that way for me, and so
yeah, I wish I could go meet a cute girl when I go out of town and have a little romance. And you know,
growing up, Cammy was awesome. So now I can barely watch the scenes.
Jesus.
And the very inappropriate meet cute.
Oh, that usually John Hughes movies do not hold up as well as this one does. All that has is that the pool cue scene.
Between her legs,
like Pretty in Pink, and you're cringing the whole time. So this is actually pretty tame for John Hughes.
That's true. That's true.
But it's boomer music. That's what it is. It's the stuff like Yakety Yak. I'm pretty sure that's what they were listening to when they were little kids. Yes. And then some of the other stuff was the more modern for them, because this was made for boomers and their kids. So it's to appeal to them. I'm not a fan of that kind of music in this. I'm way more into the new wave stuff from Breakfast Club, but Yakety Yak Don't Talk Back is a fantastic way to open this movie. It is. And the end song is a fantastic ending. It's bookended by these two like bangers for the time and the situation and the film itself. So, and then it does have a really good sound design. It really does. In the scene at the end with the twins at night in the rain and the lightning, it's a combination of things makes that scene actually pretty tense. Not like, oh my God, what's going to happen? But like, oh no, how are they going to get out of this? So I gave it a 3. I don't think it's fantastic, but I understand why they chose the music they did.
Yeah.
It's not special. It's just fine.
I was taken back. You mentioned the opening scene in the car, and I almost forgot. It took me straight back to Dirty Dancing, because both of these movies open with an iconic throwback song driving into the camp location. And I was like, oh, that's how Dirty Dancing opened. That's how this movie opens. And it was very similar. So I did see that comparison, since we just did Dirty Dancing not too long ago. The editing and special effects.
Okay. Special effects. That bear. Art the bear, bro. Seeing him get his ass hair blown off with the buckshot from a plug-in rifle lamp.
I love that.
Fantastic.
Plug it in to shoot it.
It's like, what the hell? It's like, it's loaded. It's okay. It's like, what the hell? That in itself was just super, super, super fun. The bat situation, it was weak kind of bat, but it looked kind of believable throughout when it was flying around. Although when you get the shot back where you see the thing flying around and Roman and Chet trying to go after it, it does look kind of hokey the way it's just kind of swinging around, it seems like. But when you see it laying on the ground, it looks more like a real bat, and I thought that was
better
cool.
than the one in Suspiria.
Yes. That was going to be my next comment, dude.
But we're getting ready for Halloween. We're getting ready for Halloween, and just recorded the original Suspiria, and the bat was a topic of conversation. So I did watching this movie, both of us thought the same thing. It did look a little better than Suspiria's bat.
Yeah, Suspiria was a shit bat. This, for Great Outdoors, it was just kind of a gooch bat. It's whatever. Shit bat, gooch bat. It's whatever. But okay. The editing, though, I think the editing was fine and nothing too crazy. When they're out on the lake, though, a lot of those back and forth shots from like the boat to seeing John Candy or the stuntman who's out there, I thought they had a really great lineup on the sequence of shots for that. That was just really awesome, between like ramp and like coming out wide and having the rope from the handle go over the people on the boat and taking that flag out, all the way that whole sequence worked, I thought just was super, super awesome. Fun fact about that though, when they were doing that, the water was like 40 degrees at the time on the lake. So, and John Candy was through the parts where he was actually him out there, like dude was freezing his ass off. And a lot of people gave him a lot of props because he just dealt with it, did it and got through it, which not something a lot of people want to have to deal with. You don't want to be on the water shorts like that, 40 degrees. It's brutal, man. Not a good time. So props to him for having the stamina to get through that shit. Any other special effects? There's not really much in the way of special effects otherwise. You don't really see much anything else. There's a lot more slapstick and practical stuff going on. Yeah, and that's about it for me. I'm gonna sit it at a 3. Yeah. Serviceable, just kind of your standard kind of deal.
You mentioned the bear. I appreciated the real bear all the time. I can't think of a shot in that movie where they used a stuffed bear or a human in a costume. It was a real bear.
I can.
You can?
Yes.
Which scene?
Yes. When they are on the stairs and Dan Aykroyd is fighting it off, there is one blip where you can clearly see that is some sort of animatronic animal.
Okay.
But other than that, do not get me wrong. It is seamless other than like that one little second. Like that bear is fantastic.
They cut it so well. So the way you mentioned I really like the water sports sequence because it's cut so well. Yeah, we know that guy is not John Candy doing those stunts, but it's not obvious. There are a couple moments where you're like, that dude's legs are jacked. But other than that, they did a nice job of padding that guy up, making him look like John Candy and cutting it with shots of John that make that scene so much more believable. It was really well done. The bear attack at the end, really well done. And yeah, that plug-in lamp. I love it. I don't know what it reminds me of the leg lamp, even though it's not the leg. It's just this weird lamp, but he has to plug it in to shoot it. And somehow it blows all the hair off of this bear's butt cheeks. And then it's just got it's stupid humor. And I'm dying. My wife sits there and goes, "Why does it have a butt?" And I'm like, "'Cause it's funny."
Booty humor.
Yeah, butt humor. But yeah, there's really not a whole lot of other special effects other than the romance being abruptly cut at a lot of times where we cut to it randomly. It's pretty well done. I actually gave it a 4 because I'm really impressed with the live action bear for the most part. That impresses me. So I was impressed by the bear. The storm looks really good, looks really convincing. I never questioned if it was a real thunderstorm because it felt real. So yeah, I gave it a 4.
Another fun bear fact though, with Bart the bear, that whole scene where the bear is chasing him through the woods, John Candy was terrified as shit. But the only way that they were able to make the bear chase him, they had the trainer ahead of him with the food. And with as dark as it was in the dark green poncho, the bear couldn't really see John Candy. He just saw the food. It was chasing after the food. And John Candy's just like, oh, and nobody knew that he could run that fast. For a big guy, he was running his ass off. And they were super surprised. Like if you get the DVD, it's all in like the director's notes and other things on there. They've got a bunch of other fun little facts and details on there. Which is another reason why I love this. Anyway, so, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, y'all pretty much said it all. I did knock off 1 point because of the weird bit of the bear that I saw, because I felt like I had to knock something off. And I did lump stunts in here too, because the stunt work is fantastic. And it really does look like John Candy to a degree. Like, it doesn't you're not laughing at it like you are sometimes whenever you're watching a child and it's clearly a small woman. Like, it's not like that at all. It's pretty solid. I give it a 4. I don't really have much else to say that y'all didn't already say.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I can dig it.
Definitely one of the strengths of the movie, I would say. So the script then, Jonathan.
Script, I don't really have too much to say about the script. I mean, a lot of it seems like your average kind of family dialogue, father, son, in-laws, kind of like bickering kind of a deal. It seems very believable. Like Ivy was saying earlier, with as far as the characters, they seem like believable people, and the dialogue from the script follows along with it, I think, pretty well. Some of the comedic bits, though, between the scenes, man, some of that stuff is just crazy. Like when they're going to the party at the lodge because of some guy, it's like 109th birthday or some such. And it's trying to take a picture, and the lodge owner's like, "Hey, man, please don't have the kids crawl over them." And he's like, "Oh no, get in closer, give him a kiss on the cheek." And he's like, "I don't think you should." He's like, "Why?" And he's like, "Oh, because he's dead." Like, "Oh, okay." Everyone starts freaking out and just go, wash.
I love that scene. It's my favorite.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing too crazy with the dialogue. I mean, you get some outrageous stuff from Roman. I think it's funny and really goofy at the beginning of the movie where John Candy or Chet and his wife first get to the lodge. Kids are down at the lake and they're trying to get a little frisky, and they're coming up with their little role playing game, and their cute names and stuff. I thought it was really fun as part of the script. Other than that, I don't really have too much to say on it. It all just seemed to flow really well. But some of that dialogue with Ben or Buck and his little townie girlfriend was really cheesy. But it's just typical for kids of that age, though. So, I mean, whatever. I'll give it a 3.
Yeah. I think I counted some of my story issues in here with the script of how the romance doesn't really justify itself being there. So, however, I think Cammy is better written than the son. Her little playing hard to get at the beginning, loved it. But for the most part, it's very, kind of like we said, it's a very real conversation. Like, everybody has that one person in their life, maybe multiple people, who is that one upper who sits there. You sit down to have a conversation. Yeah. Me? No.
Point of view of the viewers.
Yeah. You sit down to have that conversation, and the other person has to just outdo you. And so I don't really find this movie funny. I think I laughed out loud maybe 3 times. The dead guy is one of the times that I think that is really hilarious. I love that part.
You're sick.
Yeah. But there's not a ton. I think there's a line from Aykroyd towards, early on with, like, at the end of the credits when they pull up and they talked about how they went here for their honeymoon. And the wife gets out of the car and goes, "You think they would have updated it since then?" And I'm like, that was a good one too. But other than that, I don't really laugh out loud at this film. I just find it humorous. It's just realistic situations, realistic dialogue for the most part, and humorous situations. It's replicating kind of the family vacation that you want to have for the good parts, not the fighting and the one-upmanship, but that's the drama that keeps the movie going. So yeah, I gave it a 3. I think the raccoons in the first scene are funny, the potty mouth raccoons, but they serve no purpose. So I can't they're just there to pad some time. And I do think it's funny that they're swearing in the subtitles of this movie. So I enjoy it, but it's not really a plus to the script. The other line that I laugh at is when Dan calls the guy and says he just needs 3 minutes of his time and $25,000. And he's like, I think the guy hung up on me. And he says it's the pastor, and she's like, you went to church once. Why? Like, yeah, that I think that is funny. But other than that, yeah, and the script's a 3 for me. It's definitely not Hughes's best work on the script, but it's relatable. So I give it credit for that.
I also gave it a 3 because I like how kind of quirky it is. There's a lot of stuff in there that I really enjoy. The most important thing about the script is there's a Freddy Krueger reference in it. During the bear scene, that's in there. Have to point that out.
Yeah.
But when we got to the scene with the dead man at his birthday, when we got there, I paused the movie because I had to go to IMDb because I could not remember if John Hughes wrote National Lampoon's Vacation or not. And he did. And that is when I realized that in a double feature, this is the B movie to National Lampoon's Vacation. There's a lot of similar DNA, but this is like a childish version of it.
Okay.
Like all around, it kind of reads that way. That's not a bad thing. I really enjoy this movie. But if it was like one of those either or type things, I'm going to choose Vacation every single time. But the way that Dan Aykroyd speaks to his children is hilarious. It's like he's never spoken to any child ever before.
It's like he's never seen these children before.
Yeah, it's like these are brand new to him. Brand new right then and there. And telling him the scary story. I do that with children. I don't realize how scary I'm being sometimes.
I'm waiting for the joke of him like hiring these child actors to pretend to be his for the trip. There's no relationship there.
But there's not. But there's other they make quirky choices. Like another movie might, with the bear, not have the marker be the bald head. It would be like the eye had been shot out or the ear was missing. This movie gives it a bald head. That's fun. There's lots of little bits of things like that all throughout the whole thing. And there is an end credit scene. It is the raccoons.
I was want to see if anybody said anything about it.
Why have I missed
I was waiting to see if anyone would say it.
I just happened to let it run all the way through. And it's the raccoons, and they're gossiping about the bear, and they say she's bald at both ends now. And that's the end of the movie.
It's fantastic. Such a way the fucking wonderful way to end that last sharp note in the movie.
It really
Cap it off.
So, yeah, I gave it a 3. It's not perfect, but it's fun.
So the acting, then, this is an easy one.
Oh, yeah. So there was a lot of great performance going on here. John Candy just being like that every father kind of thing that most people would think of. He does such a great job of it while still being a loving husband and everything. But like seeing how tortured he is through everything, how he has to slog through the bullshit because of Roman and all the stuff that he decides that they're going to go do. Man, he definitely plays it well. And just the torture on his face is something fierce, especially like when they're doing the old 96er challenge and he's sitting there. You could tell he's got the meat sweats so hard. Have either of you ever had the meat sweats before?
Oh, yeah.
Fucking awful. It's awful. Oh, my God.
How much meat do you have to eat to get the meat sweat?
So much. I went to a Korean barbecue one time. Korean barbecue for lunch. Dangerous.
32 ounces maybe when it starts.
Oh, God.
Him doing a 96-ounce steak. In the torture on his face, it's like, no. Dan Aykroyd's be like, I think we can get a dessert in and we can do it, we can make a deal here, he gets kids some hats and stuff, we make it. And just the fear on his face when the guy's like, he's not done, but he's all fat and gristle. And the look that the cook gives him, this giant tower of a man, just with his bloody chef jacket on, like he's got to get it all, you know. That was super awesome. And just being like, no. And then seeing him come out of the lodge in that next, from the cut there to the next scene, walking out just like, looking like he is in genuine pain, like he's about to burst and explode all over everybody. Awesome. And especially like when he's out on the lake and Roman decides to go ahead and gun it with the boat, taking him out on the skis. Man, him freaking out, calling him a bastard, and just, oh my God. Just seeing how angry he gets throughout everything is so awesome. John Candy is such a fantastic actor. God, I wish he hadn't passed away so young.
Yes.
Yeah. But
I thought the same thing.
But I love it, though, when he's telling the story about the bald-headed bear and how he really gets everybody. And everybody else's, their reactions to it, it seems so believable. It seems like, yeah, that is how people would really react to that. You know, to a story like that in that time. Now, a lot more people are desensitized these days, so maybe it wouldn't be as impactful, is what it is. But just everyone's reactions and how he tells the story, how you see that sense of tension and fear, and then everybody getting so mad at him at the end. It seems like such a natural, realistic family reaction. I wonder if like everyone was acting was scripted that way, or if it was more of an improv deal. But I still thought it was really awesome. And his pains that he goes through with the horse. When he's finally comes back from the rage, everyone's sitting there goofing off, having a good time. Like, oh, there he is, Roman and his jabs, and everybody making fun of him, and just seeing him like, yeah, I'm dead. I need to go home. Go home. Like he's about to fall out, like he's like dehydrated and everything. That's a great portrayal. And then Dan Aykroyd as Roman, man, he really sells it with the douchebag role, you know. And I really appreciated it because we all know, I think everybody knows somebody like that who's really pompous and arrogant like that. And, you know, always trying to be like they're better than everybody else. He just portrays the role well. The wives didn't really have much into it. They just seemed kind of average. But everyone's reactions overall, and then the scenes with like the lodge people and even some of the other small bit characters, I think it was really good. I think it had such a sense of realism to it that I gave it a 4 on the acting, despite some of the more cheesier parts. No,
I am impressed by John Candy does such a great job of being the every father. And you really highlighted some of the great scenes. I love when it all comes to a head and they have that argument. And I was wrong. I think I laughed 4 times at this movie. And the scene where they're all saying, blow it out your ass. Just going around, everybody saying it a different way. I lose it at that scene a little bit too. That scene is so good. And that's when all the tension comes to a head. And they do a nice job of that. And yeah, Dan Aykroyd just plays the dick so well. He does a nice job. I give it a 4 too. I don't really have a whole lot more to add to it. I think the kids are pretty good for kid actors. I think even though I don't really care for the romance storyline, they do a nice job. They're not cringy acting. Yeah, I give it a 4. It was good. It was pretty great acting overall. I think they all deliver in their roles. So yeah.
I also gave it a 4. Dan Aykroyd's at his best when he's playing a slime ball. So when he's playing a slime ball, he's great. The only reason I didn't give it a 5 is because they're not really, you just seem like you're watching Dan Aykroyd. You seem like you're watching John Candy, and that's great. It also, every time you watch it, makes you miss John Candy, but I feel like that happens anytime you watch him in anything. But it's a 4.
That's true. Oh, I was going to mention the scene early on that really makes me hate Dan Aykroyd is when he and John are sitting on the patio and they're talking about nature, and John's talking about what he sees and then asks Dan what he sees. And Dan talks about like this big industrial complex, whatever. And I hate him for it. But I think they were Burger King glasses. I noticed they're drinking out of not Last Jedi, Return of the Jedi glasses from Burger King. I saw that sitting on the table. And I was like, that is awesome. Because I have some of them. my mom finds those things at antique stores, and I have a bunch of I have some Abbott and Costello glassware. I have Star Wars glassware. I have old Batman glassware. Yeah, she finds
They don't
those
have
things.
lead in them, do they?
I haven't checked. All right, so direction.
Okay, so direction. I don't know. I always seem to struggle with how I want to say things when it comes to direction because I don't always feel like I don't have too much to say as far as direction.
You want me to go first?
I mean, I gave it a 3 on direction. There were some good lead-ins to certain scenes. Some of the stuff that you see with the romance, where how goofy that is, with them trying to find each other back and forth, is okay. With that whole townie scenario. I don't know. I don't really think much about direction when I think about this film. I mean, there's some cool stuff. What was it man, now I'm drawing a blank all of a sudden. Okay, I just went brain dead.
Well, I agree. This isn't like a superbly directed movie. It's just well directed. It's directed well enough that scenes with the bear attacking the cabin work. It's directed well enough that you're not taken out of the movie or going, well, this is garbage. It gets the job done without any particular flair. Some things that bother me, whether it be script or whatever, but most of the romance scenes, or maybe it's just 2 or 3 of them, take place at this carnival, but the family never visits the carnival, just the son. And so sometimes I wish the director had connected somehow, maybe the family went to the carnival first and then the kid goes on his own. I don't know. I think there are things like that the director could have connected. Outside of that, it makes me feel like the scenes at the carnival with just the 2 kids were filmed completely separate from the rest of the movie and filmed to add time to the film. But other than that, I mean, it's nitpicking to pull apart the directing because no particular flair, but it's also not bad. I gave it a 3 as well. I think it's just good. It's good directing. It's not bad directing. So it works.
You say it well better than people say it way better than I do.
I think I was waffling between a 3 and a 4, so 3.5.
Okay.
It's exactly what you said. It's fine. It's serviceable. I did like when he's telling the bear sort of ghost story at the beginning, whenever he's recounting that tale. Some of that, not directly, not 100%. I don't think it was intentional necessarily, but some of it kind of reminded me a little bit of Sam Raimi style in The Cabin in Evil Dead, the way they were kind of taking the camera and going into people's faces a little bit. I'm not talking full on camera being dragged through the woods type stuff. That's that's inspired by Sam Raimi whenever you see it, but something right there. Yeah. I like that.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I forgot to mention the lighting in that scene too. It shows John Candy go around and turn out the lights, but they hype that moment up and they do a great job of that ghost story in the cabin. That's something, man, I'll talk about that in final thoughts. But yeah, he does a great job of that. Was that it?
Yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
Okay. So the it factor, cultural significance of this film, Jonathan.
So the fact that it's a John Hughes film set in that whole John Hughes era, that was kind of a big thing because, it was just a really popular time throughout the 80s, early 90s for John Hughes films. So just his name being on that, that a lot of people are going to be drawn to it. The fact that it's got John Candy, Dan Aykroyd, both well-established, actors at that point. People are going to love to go see that. Everyone loves a good family film, something that appeals to everybody. So I could see it having a lot of draw all around for a lot of folks, especially when you look at, some of the box office that they had at the time when it came out, locally, globally. It had a pretty good drawing, I think, for people. And still, even now, still a pretty well-known film. And it's It's not like over the top fan. It's not like super like top ranked within films of that time, but still pretty kick ass film. I give it a 3 originally, but in retrospect, I think maybe I give it a 3. Yeah, I still stick it a 3.
I think the names here: Dan Aykroyd, John Candy, or John Hughes, big draws for the film. Those make it, whether you're going through John Hughes films, going through Dan Aykroyd films, or John Candy films, that puts this one on your list to watch. I also think this movie has inspired, it's the B movie to National Lampoon's Vacation. Nailed it with that one, Ivy. But this movie made me want to watch Grown Ups.
It's okay. Don't listen to them. It's okay.
I think there are elements of this movie that reverberate through other family vacation films. And it's really finding that family vacation film is actually kind of challenging. We've done State Park, which is not for the family. That is for your college age vacation movie. High school, maybe. We've done Dirty Dancing, which is, your typical male audience is not going to be there for that film. And then we did Camp Nowhere, which is targeted to kids. And this one targets everybody. It's trying to be a true family film. And that's something that I think is missing, especially in this vein today. I gave it a 3 because it wasn't critically received well. Critically, the movie was pretty panned. People did not love it, but critics don't know what they're talking about usually. So, I gave it a 3.
I also gave it a 3. I came into this not knowing what I was going to give that because I really didn't know what the temperature on this movie was. The thing that it's always struck me, I don't know if I can explain this, is I'm going to compare it to like a slasher series in the 80s. You got the first movie that's great. You got the second movie that's pretty good. Maybe the third one is excellent. And then it all kind of goes downhill from there. Bearing in mind that at this point in his career, John Hughes had not written Home Alone or Uncle Buck yet. Those movies did not exist, or Christmas Vacation. Those all came later. But he was so dead on for such a long time, where he had 16 Candles, Mr. Mom, The Breakfast Club, Weird Science, Pretty in Pink, Bam, Bam, Bam. This feels like the end of something. It feels like he's worn out. Like he never really did another teen romance again. Like this was the last, that little, so it feels like he's sort of dried out at that point by the time you get here. And I think that's why it feels like the B movie to Vacation, is because he's done all this stuff before and it sort of feels a little bit played out. And I think people might have been tired of those kind of movies at that point, and they were like, oh, John Hughes, and they just kind of passed on it.
Yeah.
So I think maybe that's why. And it didn't, but the cast and John Hughes' name now that we know what kind of legend he is, like, I think that definitely does lift it up, and that's why people remember it. If this hadn't been written by John Hughes, I don't know that people would talk about this movie very often.
No,
whether that's necessary, whether that's correct or not. I just don't think that without the pedigree of the people who made it, I don't think people would care.
Yeah,
no matter how good or bad it is.
You are correct. This about he never really did another teenage romance. This movie kind of marked the end of that, writing a little bit more family oriented as far as storytelling goes. So
I didn't know he wrote Beethoven.
Oh, I didn't know that either.
Beethoven.
Wait, John Hughes?
John Hughes wrote Beethoven.
Okay, I didn't know that.
The dog movie?
He wrote yes, the dog movie. It's not good.
I watched that as a kid. I don't watch dog movies anymore. Don't do it. Yeah. The last dog movie I watched was Marley and Me, and that ended it.
Yeah. So one other thing, as far as like the cultural significance, I did find some notes where In 2017, Universal Pictures said that they were supposed to be doing a reboot of this movie starring Kevin Hart, produced by Michael DeLuca. It was supposed to be in development. I've never heard anything about that outside of this, so I'm assuming that it went nowhere and flopped as far as trying to develop that project.
Is there a Kevin Hart movie that could possibly sub in for this that maybe they changed the name of?
Could you imagine?
You know what I mean?
Imagine this movie with Kevin Hart and Dwayne Johnson.
No,
that's who it would be.
I've seen enough of that duo. Let's see some different mix-ups.
This is part of my wrap up. But I thought about this. I actually thought about what if this was made today. What would it be like? And I know, and because this is when part of what I was thinking about when I was thinking about Vacation. Have you seen the Vacation remake with Ed Helms? It's garbage.
And Emma Roberts?
He plays Rusty. No, I don't think Emma Roberts is in that. But he plays Rusty, and Chevy Chase and Beverly D'Angelo are in it as, whatever, but they follow Rusty and his family. It feels pre-pandemic. I'm not positive how old it is, but I think Christina Applegate might be his wife.
Yes.
But it's terrible. At one point, they're bathing in raw sewage. Like, this is the kind of joke level we're getting. It's not like, if you think about the jokes in Vacation, there's some adult stuff in there. There's some really darkly comedic stuff in there. It's not for kids necessarily. It's not offensive or anything,
right.
But it's not. But it's not bathing in sewage. And I think that if this movie were made today, they would be bathing in sewage.
So
I don't think it would be.
I did not realize that was supposed to be a whether it's continuation, sequel, requel. I did not realize that movie was connected at all.
Yeah.
Huh. That's an industry. But
that's wild.
Also, one other thing, though, also in November of 2021, Hollywood Reporter did an interview with Aykroyd, said that he was working on a sequel with Deutsch titled The Great Outlaws that would bring back Roman as a Ponzi scheme guy who victimizes a federal agent. In the interview, Aykroyd also said that he was looking for the Candy figure to cast in the film. So who knows if that'll actually amount to anything.
My God, I hope not.
Yeah. We just don't have anybody like that right now. So the overall, we're kind of getting into our final thoughts, but overall, how entertained were you? You can dive in the final thoughts on it.
I'm going to dive in deep on a 9. I had just a massive level of enjoyment out of this film. Between the goofiness with the lodge owners, between the Ripleys and the Craigs, and all the hijinks, through all the things that they did, all their activities, it's something that appeals to everybody in some way, I think. And it's, like I said, I will always recommend this film. So I will always advocate for this film. It always kicks ass. So yeah, I'm swimming in the deep end on that 9, buddy.
I'm coming in not too far behind you. I'm at an 8. Like I said, this movie holds, not just from watching it growing up, but watching it lately, where it was kind of this comfort spot in my life. And that's what this movie is. It works as a great background movie. You've seen it a couple times. You can put it on maybe while you're cleaning, I don't know, working on crafts. I don't care. Or, you're on vacation and it's a stormy night and you don't, for us specifically, no internet, pop this movie on and it's a comfort. Like I said, I don't find this movie particularly hilarious. In a head-to-head competition between National Lampoon's and this, I'm going to go National Lampoon's Vacation. But this movie has this strange, realistic comfort to it that I can't really describe. And I think there's also this nostalgia factor that people don't vacation like this anymore. No. I'm watching it, and you might go to a cabin and do similar activities, but these kids aren't on cell phones. They're not bringing streaming devices. They're not bringing their Xbox to hook up to the TV in their room. Like, they are a family going on vacation together. And I just don't see that. You know, my wife and I like to go out and travel, and everywhere we go, it's and it drives me crazy. But the parents are there like, oh, look at that. And the kid's like, picture. Okay. And man, you're missing out on the memories. And I think this movie captures memories. And I know people are going to make the argument that like, well, posting it on Instagram is like capturing the memory. No, it's not the same. It's not the same. And so there's that nostalgia factor to this movie that I wish I could vacation like this, where you had those no distractions. It's your family, your friends, you're meeting people where you're at for that week-long period of time. You're all there experiencing the same things, getting away from your everyday life. Have fun with it. So I've loved that about this movie. I think it's a flawed movie. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but it's this strange little comforting piece of nostalgia that I keep coming back to. So it's an 8 for me.
I watched it last night and I had to stop about half an hour in to go see Longlegs. And I was kind of bummed that I had to stop watching it. So it's enjoyable enough to hold your attention whenever you're like getting ready to go do something and you're like waiting to kill time and you don't want to stop it. So it's fun. I'm going to give it an 8 on how entertained I was. But once again, I'll probably forget about it tomorrow. And then in 2 years, watch it again and be like, oh, this is delightful. So take that to mean whatever you will. But it's an 8.
Okay. So then Jonathan, what's your total score?
After my slight nudge of a bump, 36.5, 36.5.
Okay. Ivy, what's yours?
37.
Mine is a 35. We are all real close on this one. So that makes it another really easy average of a 36 out of 50 or 3.5 stars overall. Yeah, I think it's a good summer vacation movie.
Heck yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
That is all I have for this. So any other thoughts for you two?
So, like you said at the beginning, Tim, there are other films that John Candy and Dan Aykroyd have been in together. They work well as a duo in film. Have either of you ever seen Nothing But Trouble?
Have not.
Dan Aykroyd, John Candy playing 2 roles,
ooh,
and Chevy Chase and Demi Moore. Also featuring, what's their name? The band that did the Humpty Dance. Digital Underground?
Okay.
What?
They're in the film as well.
They are? Oh, no. I have it up on IMDb. Oh, no. He
Nothing
has
But Trouble.
Nose and everything.
Fantastic movie. If you want to see these two guys in another film, plus a bunch of other awesome people, here's some good music in the process, check out Nothing But Trouble. That's a very high recommendation for me. That's such a film of awesomeness and just bizarre as shit out in the middle of nowhere, craziness. Watch that film. Highly recommend if you want to see John Candy and Dan Aykroyd again, plus extra. So
I remember this movie, but I don't think I've ever seen it. Like I remember it existing.
You better go watch it.
It's on the watch list. I just put it on.
Yeah, there's so much awesome in that film. Yeah,
I'm gonna have to add that to my list.
Do it. Do it.
Ivy, any final thoughts?
No, not really. I think I said it all. It's just a fun little movie.
So if you've made it this far, be sure to keep an eye out for Ivy's new book. We don't know the release date, but be sure to keep an eye out for that one. Excited for that. So this was week 4 of doing these episodes weekly, summer vacation series. We're ramping it up on YouTube. Give us some feedback on that. I know people out there have been seeing the Dirty Dancing video. I can see those numbers. So get caught up.
Yeah, we got some good views on that.
Get caught up on Camp Nowhere. Okay. So watch those. Join us for this. Send us your score next week. We are talking Weekend at Bernie's.
Yes.
So, send us your thoughts on that ahead of time. We can read it during the recording. You can be in that episode. So, thank you for joining us. And we'll see you next week.
Peace.